دكتور، واضح ولا نفس الشيء؟
هلا دكتور، ثواني بس. لا، الحين اوكي، الصوت
انت
اوكي.
احسن.
دقيقة دكتور. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Also, I want to thank Dr. Salah Al-Hamadi for accepting my invitation. Our guest today is Dr. Salah Al-Hamadi, is a doctoral graduate of University of Reading and currently working as a lecturer in economics and financial at Arab Open University, teaching different courses. Previously, he was lecturer in Islamic Economic and Finance at ALM College Dundee, where he became the program coordinator of professional diploma in Islamic Economic and Finance in partnership with Dundee University in United Kingdom. Dr. Salah attended many national and international academic conferences where he presented different papers on an area of Islamic and conventional economics and finance, including the University of Cambridge Gulf Research Conference, presenting corporate governance issues at Islamic banks. Dr. Al-Hamadi is the author and co-editor of work and academic paper in international journal, including Journal of Sustainability Finance and Investment, Journal of Islamic Accounting and Business Research, Journal of Behavioral and Experimental Finance. Thank you so much, Dr. Salah, for joining us today. And the floor is yours. Sorry, before we start, just I want to remind you, you have 45 to 1 hour presenting, and then we'll open the floor for any question. The audience, you have to type to, and you can just raise hand and we'll go one by one to ask Dr. Salah any question, or you can write your question in Q&A. This is me, Dr. Ahmed Al-Gattan, the founder of ITAR Group, and Dr. Salah, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure here to be at ITAR. Today I'll be talking without any further introduction. It was a great introduction by Dr. Ahmed already. We'll be talking about how the COVID-19 pandemic is or has already reshaped the economy with some evidence from Kuwait economy. So the COVID-19 pandemic has a rapid spread to many countries. Is it a myth? Is it real? This is something, not that here we're going to discuss, but we're going to discuss the effect of the COVID-19 and the impact of it in global economy, with some touch on Kuwait as well as the stock market. As you know, the pandemic or the COVID-19 has disrupted the normal life. People were locked down, business activity was shut down. And we want to look at how did that affected the economy and how we are as an economy is being shaped or reshaped, as well as looking at the stock market, especially after the vaccine announcement. It was blind for many months. Now we're going to look into that. Okay, so as just a little bit of background of the COVID-19, on December 31st, Wuhan has given us a great New Year gift, where they discovered the severe case of respiratory infection disease. And then on January 9, they have informed the Health Organization that China has announced they have discovered the COVID-19. And since then, it's been disruptive of the little by little, disrupt the economy itself. Today, the COVID-19 has infected more than 75 million people, with the death rate of about 1,600,000 something. For example, in December 17th, Japan has reported its new numbers. This is the second wave. The first wave, they got control. They brought it down to 200. Now the second wave kicks in again. And they are having more than 3,000 per day. The US, it's been up. They have an average of 50,000, especially after the second wave, or I should say after their election. They have a severe, numbers. It's been increased to 220 of a new record case was in December 14th, just a couple of days ago. Okay, so the escalation of the COVID-19 pandemic has shown a significant implication on the global economy. We have seen the stock market crashes. For example, the volatility of the US stock market has been the worst since the Black Monday, which was 1990 or 1987. Also, the fast spread of the coronavirus has brought with it the oil prices also crashed in May, and that was the worst since the Gulf War in 1990. So the numbers the economic crisis that Corona has, influenced is touching the records of, of the economics crisis itself. For example, in here, if we look at the GDP declining globally, here, the GDP being declined. Of course, this is the contracting of the GDP is globally expected due to the lockdown, because country wanted to contain the virus and protect its population, where the country has to put a strict lockdown measurement starting in the first half of 2020, and most of the economic activity are closed. The supply chain has very limitation into developing different supply. So it is expected to see the GDP growth in the negative side. However, the IMF has expected that in 2021 we should see some growth again in the GDP, and we are just waiting to see if this is true. طبعا, of course, the coronavirus has reshaped the economy in the way we deal with everything, actually. We have seen that our world completely changed in a matter of months since the announcement of the coronavirus. The street became empty, like ghost town. Parents became teachers. You know, everything is being online here in Kuwait. You know, primary school is from home, so it's still online. Others, they pushed it to make it, you know, but in the beginning, they shut it down, and now they brought it back here in Kuwait. And in the region, still, primary school is still being teaching at home, which brings lots of, you know, compromise by parents, because most of parents, especially young ones, they do work. Home has been transferred to work places like now. Look at us, you know, we were having the conference, everybody at home or at some place looking, watching, or you know, logging from the computer. Increase the online shopping. You know, the online shopping is being there, but it increased it tremendously. Develop, you know, the delivery package. Governments are trying to stabilize this, of course, with different package. Also, it's a record stimulation package, for example, looking at the US. In the first fiscal support, they say we're going to push it to 3 trillion, and then increase it to 9 trillion in the, just like after a couple of weeks after they had announced the 3 trillion. And it wasn't enough. They brought down the interest rate to 0, and then they announced unlimited quantitative ease, which has never been done. You know, so it is changing things around in here. Looking at, for example, the influencing behavior across generations, like the baby boomers in the US, people who were born in 1963, 1964, just right after the World War II, trying to learn new technology. You know, they are old now, old people in the 80s, and older. They have to learn the new technology because the culture-wise, especially overseas, a lot of the old people live by themselves. You know, parents, usually kids, they move out of the house, not just like maybe the Arab traditional where children stay home. So they have to learn new technology, how to order, how to shop, and everything. This including grocery delivery, direct to consumer, and everything. Even everything is start online. Subscription entertainment. We've seen for example, the Netflix stock has been skyrocketing, and Amazon Prime and all that. Change in the way of we travel now. Of course, in the beginning there was some restriction. There was we had a lockdown, and then when they start little by little easing up in travel, people are reluctant on traveling. They're afraid, even if they have to. There's even announcements by the government: don't travel unless you have to. And if they have to, the way we travel is not like we used to anymore. So just like how September 11, I would say, has changed the traveling restriction on security. Before you could, before September 11, it was a very easy travel. And right now, you cannot take a lot of things, including water. You cannot even take water with you from outside, inside the airplane. Now, with the new restriction, God knows what's going to happen also in the future if the vaccine is not really doing its job. Also, the effect of different, like the auto, different impact across industry, that's including like the auto, the retail industry, tourism, and all that. So, which brought us to the question of how COVID-19 could change the financial world further. So, for example, American has, as we know, the U.S. has been dominating the world global finance since the World War II, when when the current system was built, the Brentwood system, monetary management. However, the economy or the economic disaster caused by the COVID-19 could signal a new chapter of financial history. I think China will have different roles than now. It might have a bigger share of the market itself. China is fighting to compete for greater control of the world finance. Look at their banks. The first world largest bank, it's the Chinese banks. However, it's still like about 70% they are dealing with international, but I think in the future there'll probably be more of share for the Chinese financial people. For example, I want to talk about some of the effect of the COVID-19 to the stock market, and then look at a different place, different sectors. So, for example, here the stock market and the COVID-19, the impact of the global economic is not yet clear. I mean, we have seen that there's a vaccine coming and people are regaining the confidence of the market. People still hesitating, is the vaccine is going to work? People are afraid to take it. Some people are worried about the side effect and all that. So it's still, it's too early to judge we are completely off the COVID-19, of course, not yet. So, for example, if you look at what happened when they announced the COVID-19, especially when the cases reached the US, after being spread out of China, the US stock market has hit the circuit breaker mechanism 4 times in 10 days. The circuit breaker is it's a measurement, temporary measurement that it will stop the trading if, for example, there's a panic in sales, like if there's a drop in the S&P 500, more than 5%, they will halt it for 15 minutes. If it's before 255, if it's reached 7, they will halt it for the entire day, and it's sort of like that. So that circuit breaker here, the circuit breaker was hit, as I said, 4 times in 10 days, where when they have it on, when they have it on in the black, after the Black Monday, when October 19th, 1987, the market has fallen more than 22%. So therefore, the stock market authority, regulators, has put the circuit breaker mechanism since 1987, and it's only hit once, which was in 1997. Together with the US crash, stock market in Europe also has, in Asia has also plunged. FTSE 100, for example, in March 2020 has the worst since 1987, which is again since the Black Monday, was dropped more than 10%. The stock market in Japan as well has lost about 20% since its position in December 2019. The S&P 500 dropped over 30% within 1 month. So you can see that it had a tremendous effect on the stock market. People are getting panicked in it. The stock market as well, the US Central Bank
Dr.
authority
Salah,
respond. Yes.
sorry for interrupt. May you raise your voice a little bit, please, because it's your voice is not that clear. So if you don't mind, just raise your voice a bit. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Let me bring it in. I need to be closer to the laptop since I'm not in my.
Right now, it's clearer. Right now, it's
Okay.
clearer. Thank you.
Okay, so as the U.S. Central Bank and authority respond immediately by throwing, of course, tons of policies. For example, on March 15, the Federal Reserve announced 0%. We haven't seen that even in September 11. And they started easing up with the 700 billion quantitative ease program. And then, as I said, they announced 3 trillion. And then, after they haven't seen any reaction, after 8 days, they said unlimited quantitative ease policy. So although most stock market has recently begun to rebound because of the vaccine, a great deal of uncertainty still remains about the pandemic, disease in different places. That's going to continue. The effectiveness of the vaccine itself is still unclear, as I have mentioned earlier. Now the question is, what impact will the corona vaccine have on the stock market? I want to go a little bit more on that and see how you can see the investment behavior has changed with the coronavirus. We've been losing faith for so many months, and as soon as they have announced it's been approved, or not even approved yet, before it was even approved, they have announced that they have a very successful, if you guys remember what happened in here, as of course, the University of Oxford with AstraZeneca has announced that they have reached a vaccine that could be, protecting us from the coronavirus, about 70% rate that can cure the coronavirus. But then Pfizer with BioNTech, they came in after they tested phase 3, and they said, we have reached about 90%. They said 90%. Moderna came in and out of Massachusetts and said, you know what, we are reached 94.5. And then after a couple of weeks, you see the race to get the market share on that. And then the Pfizer came back again. They said we have kind of redeveloped the vaccine, and now we have reached with the last phase of the trial to 95. Then Russian came in with the Sinovac, and they said, well, Russian was at 70, and then it's 92% when Pfizer was 90. And then when they all announced 95, they came and they said about 95%. Other ones that still have potential, vaccine, which is in the phase 3, like Johnson & Johnson, still there. The Chinese sends CanSino with they've been working closely with the UAE government. So, and different ones that are potential working. Now we know that Pfizer already being approved by the FDA. Moderna, the same thing. The only problem is the transportation, because in Pfizer, you need to keep it in storage at -70, where Moderna is -20. However, this is not any problem to developed country, like in the US, they can have it no problem. However, developing country or people, the poor country, they might not be having the technology to store it at that level. So they might have to wait, just like, for example, AstraZeneca, which is the normal traditional vaccine that works on just like the flu vaccine. which is a dead virus of, the coronavirus, where they put it on. They still, you still have to take two shots, not like the normal one or the flu shot where you take only one. Now you have to take one, and then after 28 days, you need to take another shot to be able to make it work. Looking ahead, of course, after the vaccine, we have seen our life is being changing in everything we do, with the way we even the way we communicate, the way we shop, the way we do everything. So looking ahead here, promising development of the vaccine, of course, before it even got approved by the FDA, it has the optimistic of the investors. People will, got so happy with that. The market has reacted very positively. So it will take time, of course, for the new vaccine to become ready, especially to everyone. I know, we know that's already being given in the US, but, until everybody has it on hand. I'm talking about, you're talking about the entire population of the universe. So this will take time. Of course, we're going to have ups and downs in the stock market, especially. But at least people are getting confidence of the vaccine is there. As I mentioned earlier, people are hesitating to take it or not. But if they see, I think if they see the role model who's taking it, like the political leaders, people who they know that are taking it, they will say, okay, just the same thing as the flu shot in the early, which, the other Spanish flu and all that. Keep in mind nowadays, the way that we, the effect is being even escalated because of the technology we have. Maybe in the old times, not everybody has their life in their hand, which their smartphone. You can see everything everywhere. Like, I'm here in Kuwait, Dr. Ahmed is in the UK, everybody's in different places. So this is the technology has also helped by knowing everything and people getting escalated even more. So the global stock market after the vaccine announcement has some numbers, some positive numbers, of course. The Dow Jones, we have seen it was the worst case, and see how this is hitting new records. Now, after the vaccine announcement that it's been reached 90% when the advisor announced it, the average Dow Jones Industrial Average has closed down up by 1.5 or 455, hitting 300 mark of the first time ever entering the 30,000, the 30,000 points. Of course, with this, I have, it's not only the vaccine. The vaccine, of course, the vaccine has a tremendous effect on that, but the U.S. election in here as well, after settling down, as we know that President Trump has reluctant or has some saying about the election itself, was saying that it's not clear. He has some concern and all that. People thinking that he's, that they could go to court. All that. But then he came up and he said, okay, I do agree that Biden has, won, though I have still, he said that he has some concern about the election itself. The strong gain across the market left the border of S&P's 500 to new record as well, 57 point or 1.6% to a new record of 3,655. Oil prices. Oil, we know that the oil run big time with the corona, especially in May. It was in the negative for the print. So it came back in here and it hits on the vaccine after the vaccine about 40% up, reaching 45 per barrel for the first time since March, which is tremendous. It reached way below, in May even it reached minus, because what happened is, how the oil, they buy the future contract. So when it's time to come, they need to deliver. Most of the companies that do have oil, because of, there's no much they could do with the oil anymore. Everything was shut down. The place where you store the oil is all full, so there's no place to have it. For me as an investor, to keep the oil, what am I going to do with it? It would be too much expensive for me to keep it. Therefore, they are given money. They are given negative money, like they are paying the, let's say, Tesco, whatever, to take the oil for free. Not even free. They pay them money. That's why it's negative. That means it's negative. Also in here, the global stock market after vaccine announcement, we have the Europe, for example, the Europe indices, the stock 600 closed the highest since February. British FTSE 100 hits five-month high as well. Japan as well, they hit close to the highest level in 29 years. And that's when the record started. As investors looking more than confidence toward 2021, despite the ongoing pandemic. Possible winner with the, with the vaccine announcement, I would say definitely aviation, because they were shut down. They lost tons of money. I mean, look at Boeing. Boeing reached $89 in March. Today is 220. It was in February only this year, it was 300, almost 350. So it's a huge difference you can see in the stock market. So, also in the, on the black, when Moderna has announced the share, they're being reached at 94.5, and they're trying to give the proof of the FDA. The United Airlines gained as much as 8.6%, while American Airlines and Delta jumped as well 6%. United Airlines reached its lowest in March, when things are closing down to $17. Now it's about 45, so they have regained more, a lot, but still they have I would say it will take time to reach the 90 again until people start traveling again and all that. British Airways, again, has rose about 12.2%. British Airways is owned by the International Airline Group. They have followed 40% increase since Pfizer has announced. British Airways, it was 17 pounds or $17 in January 2020, fell down to 4.9 from 17. Now, in October, it was 2.39. And now today is about 4.3 dollars trading. So it's a huge, tremendous changes in the stock market. As well, real estate will also be one of the winners, because people, got concerned, stopped buying. The real estate market sector has been hit hard by the pandemic as well, globally, not just in the US. So, the idea of the vaccine has brought hope back to people. So people are probably looking forward to go back to working from offices, going shopping back again, going to the city center and all that back into normal life. Investors are expected to, expecting the real estate market in Europe as well and in the US to benefit the most from the announcement of the COVID-19. Losers, well, we expect that most of the winners of the coronavirus is the online and everything, online shopping, for example. Look at Amazon. It was 1,800 in January. It reached 3,500 in August. So there's a huge, gain in that. Video streamers will suffer a bit. For example, here the share of Zoom using the video conference company that has become a household name. For example, when you go search for something, you say, let's Google it. Zoom, it was the same thing. You say, okay, are you going to Zoom it? Which is, are you going to go online? Are you going to Zoom it? So the after the announcement of the vaccine was, slumped down to 17.4%. So that because people are, looking forward to go back to, work from their offices because most of people work from home right now. Why did the stock market jump following the news? Of course, the confidence, because as I mentioned earlier, we've been hearing bad news for the last 10 months, even more. People are regaining the stability of the market because of the vaccine, having hopes that we're going to have normal life back again. So confidence in the stability of the future investment play a key role in whether the market is going up and down. Investors are betting that the successful of the vaccine will help the economy to reopen again. Reopen again is like when you go back and shop normally. Right now, some country go shop normally, not normally, of course. You go with mask, you need to keep social distancing and all that. So an effective vaccine could mean that to people, we're going to travel again, we're going to work from office again, shopping again, gathering. Oh, a lot of people has missed gathering. They all talk on the phone or using the online. I will go through the, since I have 45 to 1 hour, I'm going to go through the Kuwait cases quickly. I don't think I'll have enough time to cover it in detail. But the Kuwait economy here as an evidence of what happens, how their economics has been reshaped. The economy here, the Kuwait economy is just like the rest of the world. Of course, it has a significant low because of the spread of the coronavirus. The country put a curfew and restriction. That means that a lot of business has closed down. The restriction started was in March, and it ends on August, the end of August. A lot of supply chain being disrupted, retailers, hospitality, travel, as we can see in here. Kuwait first confirmed cases was on the February 24. December, today we have about 146,000 cases. We can see we started having nothing and then escalated up, which affected, as we're going to see, the whole economy, including the government budget. However, now it's kind of easing up numbers. People are dealing with it the way that they're supposed to, not much gathering. Of course, Kuwait depends on the oil as the first revenue for them. We don't have taxes here, so therefore the oil is number one as a revenue in their GDP. Beside that, the COVID-19 effect, the demand for oil has spiked the oil prices. where we can see in May reached really down the GCC country relied on oil revenue, of course, which hits the record high since mentioned the Gulf War. On April 27, the Kuwait export blend was $13.64, where it was $60, $70, $80. A couple of years before it was 100 some. So therefore, the also on top of that, the falling demand because the OPEC Plus alliance partner didn't reach an agreement until April 12th, where they said we're going to cut about 10 million barrels per day. However, demand is still weak. People are not buying much. Everything has been, so it has an adverse economic shock on that. And we've seen coming back again about now 50.44 as of December 16, especially getting, as you can see, like kind of escalating after the vaccine announcement. The impact here, of course, in the Kuwait economy, it has impacted the retailer, hospitality, transportation, recreation, leisure. All these industry has been affected by the coronavirus, which is expected because there's a curfew and there was a shutdown completely. So especially if I'm having a store, let's assume I have a restaurant and inside the mall and everything's closed. There's no way I can even pay my employees. So they got completely shut down. At that time, the government didn't look at the economic impact at all. The first things that they care is about having the safety for the population, because there was a pandemic. Even the government got, horrified. So they take an extreme measurement to control the virus, and they said it's okay. So the government paid the most of the salary for the government sector who work in that. A lot of businesses closed down because they couldn't, resist the shutdown. As we can see here, that the impact of the non-oil sector actually compared to the GDP or the GDP of 2008 to see how is it compared before the pandemic. Though Kuwait GDP about 310 billion in 2019. Very expected it's going to have a negative growth in 2020. Everybody will have the same thing except China, of course. So as you can see here, this is negative GCC GDP growth, including the oil and the Middle East and Africa. They have, I think this is even before when we did the research, 2.8. It's more than that. The oil export region primarily is for the GCC will have about 4, even now more. I believe it's 4.8% negative. The real impact yet to come. So if we can see here, most of the countries are having negative GDP, except China. I think China will have, it's going to be the only country who has a positive economics. Of course, this due to, in the beginning, people were asked, mask from China, cleaning, all stuff you could think of for that, for the coronavirus was coming from China. Another impact on Kuwait is the real estate. We can see here the blue one is the home because most of the Kuwaiti lives at homes, and the expat, they have the apartment. Home, they might not be affected much because of Kuwaitis are staying home. They're not sailing and moving out, except the expat who lives in Kuwait, resident who went back to their country, the drop in the apartment unit was tremendously noticed. The mall commercial, of course, property is lowered because it's been shutting down. things are doing better now. Labor market, also, job. Everybody lost a job, I'm sure, all over the world. So the job market set a contract in here, as well as the weak and uncertainty outlook of the coronavirus. Most of the private sector has to lay down some workers since they were shut down. Kuwaiti job didn't affect much. I'm saying Kuwaiti job who works in the government, not in the private sector. In the government, because the government, they said, will pay you. They have helped some of the private sector, not much in that. The fiscal deficit, which is one of the things that has reshaped the Kuwait economy. The Kuwait economy, they have a surplus and they put that in the reserve, and they've been adding billions of dollars on that until the coronavirus came in, and they posted a deficit of more than 18 billion. For a very wealthy country from oil. This is not just Kuwait, UAE, the same thing. Saudi Arabia is the same thing. So the IMF has forecast that in the 2021 it will regain some of the loss from the oil, because it's going to go a little bit up. So they are expecting to have 4.6% regain on this. There was a big debate in Kuwait. I'm not going to go over it, about the debt. So the debt, government wanted to borrow some money to to address the deficit. However, the parliament is not supporting the debt, because they say it's going to create more problem. There's other ways of, Kuwait has lots of assets, but it's not a good time to sell it. So it has reshaped its economics itself. The equity market, just following the rest of the global, the Kuwaiti stock market followed the global trend. It has a negative about 30% from January peak. It dropped down, especially just after they announced the first case. It started dropping down. However, I think the panic in Kuwait is reduced, and it took time to get it, because first of all, when they have announced the first case of COVID-19, Kuwait was on a holiday. We have the Liberation Day, and we have the Freedom Day, and then the weekend. So it took some time until the market reopened. Plus, they have ticks that the market, it's not free fall. It could go to a certain percentage. So it takes time to drop all the way down in that. This is just some numbers for the Kuwaiti stock market following the global market. Like we have the premier market index. It was 600, dropped down to below almost 4,000, which was 2,000 points was lost in there. In February 20, the Kuwaiti all shares indices point were above the 6,000, but 6,000, I believe something, 200. It has reacted just like the rest of the world. Also, Kuwait was supposed to get the upgrade, already got the upgrade, but it was supposed to get it way back in February from the Morgan Stanley Capital International. It has been delayed to upgrade Kuwait to emerging market due, of course, to the coronavirus. The impact on the fiscal policy, again, the deficit here, I've mentioned some of it. The drop in the oil price has a huge impact on the government budget, the way it's financing different things. So it has reshaped its policy. Like they say, they're going to cut down on a lot of spending. The fiscal policy deficit, I mentioned, it was 18 billion. Which is the weakest since ever since the Iraqi invasion. You know how the whole country was invaded. Imagine rebuilding the whole country is equal to the effect of coronavirus. When Kuwait was liberated, most of Kuwait was disaster. The oil was burned. All the oil was burned. You cannot even, develop any oil. Everything was stolen. Everything was, if it's not stolen, was, broken or burned or, so therefore, here the cabinet members were said they were going to cut down at least 20% of the fiscal year in 2021 as planned. So it has reshaped its economy plan. There's a lot of plan for Al Harir city, which is the new development that they said they're going to bring Kuwait as one of the top financial region in the country, in the region, in the Middle East, but I don't see this is going to happen due to the coronavirus reshaping. Different lessons we have seen about the coronavirus, especially in Kuwait, which is they need to look at the broader economic challenges, should address such improving the business environment, especially for the private sector. The closing down and not looking after the private sector has tremendous effect on many people. Thank God now back to normal, almost not normal. I shouldn't say normal, more normal minus, we should say. The government may extend its current measurement to include direct support such as private sector wages guaranteed as it did with the public sector, as it did with the government jobs. Urgent, this is very important, urgent measurement are needed to raise a non-oil income revenue. People are reluctant on listening to taxes. We don't have taxes. So exercising taxes or VAT, this is very touchy for a lot of Kuwaitis who, living on their wages. But if we look at all the countries around us, the GCC country I'm talking about, they already started having VAT, 5% VAT. I have read that Saudi Arabia during the coronavirus has increased the VAT early or forever, I don't know, to 15%. Also, rationalizing subsidies, which needs to be put in place. The government is subsidizing lots of economic activities here in Kuwait, which need to be considered. I'll stop here for further questions. Not going to be able to cover much of the detail of Kuwait economics, though I have, I think, addressed most of the concern, how it's the economy, especially for Kuwait, and here how it's been reshaped from a wealthy nation to a debt now, and having to finance its economics activities. So thank you for listening here, and thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for having me. I will be, hopefully, if there's any questions, I will here to have it for a couple more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salah, for useful and informative. And thank you for giving us the flashback for what went on in 2020. The idea about the effective of the vaccine. So most of the research or the speaker will talk about the COVID-19 itself and how it's affect the economic or the stock market. But you are focusing in the vaccine itself and how it affect the market. So I really enjoy your presentation, Dr. Salah, and I have just a couple of questions. I want to ask you, Kuwait have deal with two companies.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, I'm here with you. I don't know, we got cut off for quick. Now we're back.
Sorry, I think they have an issue. Can you hear me, Dr. Salah?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
All right. I just have a question, Doctor. You know, Kuwait, they deal with two companies for the vaccine. So how that will affect the Kuwaiti market? And also, I want to know, you talk about Kuwait. So what about the effective of the vaccine for the GCC? And lastly, what is your recommendation of the Kuwait
Okay.
with the habit?
Well, Kuwait has, since Kuwait, one of the countries who's supporting the medicine with the Health World Organization. They have paid lots of money for the research itself. So they are one of these countries to get hold of the vaccine itself from Pfizer and BioNTech. They also have in different one. They said they were going to have some of the AstraZeneca from Oxford. Uh, I think the vaccine itself is still here in Kuwait is reluctant. People are still hesitating of the vaccine itself. You know, rumors here thinking that, well, you know, the vaccine is not safe. We don't know how long it's going to take until we see side effects. People thinking that after some years, we will be like robots. They are injecting something, which is, of course, not necessarily is not true because the way that Pfizer works as a messenger of RNA, not a DNA. So therefore, it's a different technology. But you know, people, this is how the technology having different social media where people listening to things that are different, and that affects the stock market by itself because people are still hesitating. But again, the investor are thrived. Like they haven't seen any good news since March. So any good news, no matter what, they will say. Like I will tell you when Joe Biden won the election in Kuwait, the Kuwaiti stock market was one of the highest in the GCC. Has nothing to do with Joe Biden. I don't know why. Just because you know it's not. Maybe they are against Trump or something. So they are waiting for any news, good news. So that's insane. Pfizer also has a contract with Saudi Arabia. The UAE has adapted the Chinese vaccine and they start taking it. One of the first person who took it well, Chinese vaccines being tested in the UAE for some time since August. So the vaccine itself, it's been used in the trial period in UAE. Right now, after they approved it, the health minister was one of the first person who take it. I think if everything goes down, nothing goes wrong, people again, there are more thrived of good news starting, trying to have the normal life back again. I think the stock market, well, it has recovered tremendously since March. There's no comparison between March and now. It's going to take a bit more time now. It jumped a little bit more than it was just a month ago. It will take time to regain the full course since January before the even announcement of COVID-19.
Yeah, I totally agreed with you, Dr. Salah. For example, cancer and AIDS, how many years that they are researchers doing many things in the labs and this stuff till now have the vaccine for it, or some medicine, let's say, to solve this virus problem. But in COVID-19, in 1 year, they, you know, as you said, the companies that you talk about, that they found a solution for this virus. So let's say that's why maybe most of people, they are afraid to take it. But as you said as well, the stock market, they need any news to go up or down. Dr. Salah, there's a question from Dr. Tawil, Professor Tawil Asia. Ask, what are the countries whose economics will recover in 2021?
Oh, well,
You
that's
can
a
see
very
the
good
question in
question. I
Q&A.
mean, there's no a single question that will have economics recovery. I mean, it's already been, we have seen some of the economy is being recovered from when? From March. That's we've seen, like say, because of the oil prices are back, reopening the market for the like the private sector, recovering totally. It's not going to see anything now because we still are the social distancing. Our life's been reshaped, just like what happened, as I mentioned in September 11, how we travel now. We don't travel like we used to. We cannot even take water inside. So recovering as a whole recover, we're not going to see that anytime soon, even with the vaccine, because it took us about now 8-9 months of losing a lot. It's going to take time to regain all this loss, especially, you know, some sector will have a big boost, like as I mentioned earlier, like the online sectors, they will have boost big time. The until the vaccine reaches all the country, because the World Health Organization, they say it's not a commercial. We're trying to deliver it, especially to poor people, to poor country, for free. People will have it here, like in Kuwait, the government announced it's a free for everybody. So because it's a pandemic, it's not like we're gonna look just to as an economics activity. Total recovery, nothing 100% anytime soon. I don't see that's happening. It's going to take time. And all countries, even developed country, will take time because we're still in the second waves. People are locking down. The UK announced just yesterday another lockdown. So
Yep.
we're not going to see any total recovery yet.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Salah. And also there is another question from Dr. Aya Atiyah. To what extent do you believe the shadow economy, informal, inform, informal sector has helped soften the shock of COVID-19 on our economics?
Well, this is, I mentioned some of this if I can get the question right. However, as I mentioned earlier, is it a myth or is it real? It's, you know, a lot of debate. If the corona, it's real or it's been implemented or it's been created. It's not like we think of. The as far as the economics itself that is helping, I've mentioned some of the winners of the COVID-19, which is the online. Look at what Bill Gates is pushing about his technology, and then he talking about the second wave, like trying to make everybody take the vaccine. We don't know much. It's like who is responsible of September 11th? Is it really Bin Laden? Now people doubting even with all these programs coming out. The question is, how can we learn? How can we benefit in the future of such pandemics? You know, disaster is going to come. This is not going to be the last disaster. We have seen every 5 years. We started with the flu virus and then the Spanish flu and all that. So we just need to learn how to react to this disasters itself.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. Please, anyone have any question? Please raise hand or write your question in Q&A before closing the session. Any question?
Okay, well, I hope no one has a question since I'm already at the border of Kuwait.
Thank you, Dr. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Salah, for the overview that you've given us. What's happened in 2020 and about the COVID-19. Really, you give us, many information and the history of the COVID-19 itself, and also the history of the vaccine itself, and what's happened, the winner and the losers, and many other information that maybe we hear it in the news as every day, but when you put it all together in the presentation, it makes sense. And thank you so much, Dr. Salah. We appreciate thank you for accepting my invitation, and hope it won't be the last time with ITAR. It's the first time, and also you will continue with us in those webinars. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. It's
Any
my
last
pleasure
word,
being
Dr.
here.
Salah?
And it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure of being at ITAR. It's well known actually now. I heard about it even at our university. So thank you again, and good luck in all your future presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salah, and see you soon, inshallah.
Thank you.
Our next webinar will be in December 25, so next Friday. It will be in Arabic with Ahmed Al-Badr, and he will talk about أثر تعليمات الحكومة أثر تعليمات الحوكمة على فعالية متطلبات الرقابة الداخلية وأصحاب المصالح في البنوك الكويتية. أحمد البدر عمل كتاب و it's published recently. اتكلم عن الحوكمة يعني بشكل خاص الكويتية، بشكل يعني جريء وبشكل جدا جميل. فأتمنى الجميع الحضور، وإن شاء الله اليوم I will announce the next webinar. Also, those are my accounts everywhere in all social media. Some of you need the PhD scholarship. Who's looking for the PhD scholarship? I announced 2 yesterday, so you can find it in those accounts. And hope to see you at next webinar. Thank you so much, and see you next week. Salam.